Good morning. Thanks for coming because it's very rainy. So I'm going to be talking about trusting your native creativity. So I'm Malin Olsson. I'm not a public speaker whatsoever, but a business owner and a visual designer. And you can find me on Instagram, email me. You can try finding me on LinkedIn, but my name is Malin Olsson. In Sweden, you can't find me because there's too many people. Can we do the papers and the pens? Yes. So, we're going to do a little... I don't know how much ice breaking it's going to be. It's going to be an creative activity. So, you're all going to get a paper with circles. And I'm going to put a timer on my phones. You're going to get a pen from my daughter's pen case. Please return them to your pen case when this is finished. Free the dip match.
He has a lot of pens.
Yes, the whole apartment is full of pens, drawings. No, I'm okay, funny. If you guys don't want it, go for it. Right, everybody got a pen and paper? And hopefully somewhere kind of okay to draw. So, don't get scared, you don't need to be good at drawing or anything. So, what I want you to do is for the next 3 minutes, try to make as many of these circles into recognizable objects. Okay? You can go inside, outside, but just make it into something. Ready? Go. All right, so I'm from the north of Sweden, but for the past 16 years, I have been living in Oslo, Norway, Auckland, New Zealand, London, UK, and for the last 10 years, I spent my time in Perth, Australia. And I, in Perth, Australia, ran my own design business, and I have now moved out with me to Sweden, and are working here, but mostly still with clients in Australia, in the US, and starting to work with some Swedish businesses now as well. So, yeah. So, when I was asked to speak and on the word native, I was like, okay, that'd be good. I'll speak about me not moving back to Sweden a year and a half ago, not really feeling at home anymore in Sweden, like the cultural difference, how hard it is to move back to Sweden, not feel native. And so I called a friend, and I was bouncing around all these ideas, and, you know, it could be native, it could be anything. So I was bouncing around all these ideas, and by the end of this call, I kind of went into like a full rant with my friend. I was like, oh my God, this is what I always do. Like, overanalyze, I overthink, like, it's... And I went in to tell her the story about from when I was very young, I always wanted to be a photographer. So I took as many photography courses as I could in high school. I went to art school for a year, studied photography, and I went to London and I did a 3-year bachelor degree in photography. And by the end of those 3 years, I didn't love photography anymore. Like, I didn't want to be a photographer anymore. Because for 3 years, we were asked to analyze everything. Every picture we took was like, why did you take the photo? Why did you take it like that? What does it mean? What's the purpose of it? What technique did you use? Is it technically correct? If it's not technically correct, why have you not done it technically correct? And it's just like this snowball thing of questions. So there was no gut feeling left in photography for me at all. There was no native creativity at all coming out in it anymore. So, finished my rant out with my friend, and she goes, that's it, that's what you should talk about. You should talk about how you overanalyze, how you overthink, and how you should trust your own native brilliance. And I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. I would never use the word brilliance, so let's change it to creativity, and I'm ready to go. So I started looking at my own process. And I think like a lot of us get stuck in things like this, overthinking, overanalyzing. And I was looking at my own process, figuring out what do I actually do in my practice to not do this, at least in the beginning stage of my my projects. So I found 3 things. So number 1 is like letting it all out. So like brain dumping every idea, everything, and letting it. This could be as soon as like having an initial talk to a client, like a potential client even. They might not even have signed with me. But just like I'll start having visuals, I'll start having colors in my head, I'll see a font, or I'll see like layouts and stuff like that. And I mean, this might not always translate to the end result, but just getting all of it out on paper or into the computer or however, whatever it is that comes up in my head, to try and get it down on paper, to not overthink and to kind of stop that overthinking. And then it's taking a break. So when I can hear myself going, this should be 2 pixels up, or this should be 1 point finger, or this should be, you know, like all those small little things that start coming up in your head, I will stop myself, I'll take a break, I'll pat the dog, unload the dishwasher, you know. I would talk to a colleague, but I have no colleagues, so, you know, I'll talk to the dog. And just like, it's kind of like hitting the refresh button on my brain to stop myself from going to those places. And obviously, there's a place, like there's a time and a place to go to those places where it needs to be nitpicky, but to make sure that I don't do that in the initial stage of projects or ideas. And then I do set deadlines for myself. So, I mean, for me, I think this might be a little bit more of a division on who you are as a person, because I think deadlines are gold. Like, it will make me work so much quicker, so much better. Like, it will stop me from doing that overthinking. I think some people might find it like really stressful with deadlines, but I really love it. But also, my brain is clever enough to know if it's a real deadline or if it's deadline I've set for myself. So if I really need it to go around that, I'll email my clients, and even if they haven't asked me for a deadline, I'll put like, I'll have this to you by Friday, or by the end of the day, or in 2 hours, and I will never miss a deadline. So that will put me on a deadline, like quite easily. So that works pretty well for me, and it prevents me from doing again. And this might not be the last like round of the last of things, but to get those first drafts out to make sure that we're like moving the process along. So when I started looking at this, like some of my most creatively rewarding work, some of my most successful work in general, has been when I've managed to like get all these 3 things kind of into place really well, and kind of listen to my own gut feeling. And other people probably can't, but I can see myself a little bit in the work, like much more creatively. So I think we're all kind of know that everything is changing, like in the creative world, like AI, like all these things, like it's changing so rapidly. And I think like we need to remember that I am me is the only utterly unique thing I have to bring to the table in the end. So if we can remember that nobody else can do exactly what we do, like there could be 10 other designers here, we get the same brief, it would be different. So then we can start trusting our native creativity a bit more.